beginning of the 2023 season was a real struggle for McLaren's Formula 1 team, because despite the whole buzz about the team's revival strategy, their performance was still below par. Now, it looks like the Papaya team has been working towards a revival after all, because their performance at the British GP was incredible. The team drivers, Lando, Norris and Oscar Piastri, had emerged 2nd and 4th respectively. The McLaren car was so impressive that Mercedes driver Lewis Hamilton called it a rocket ship. So what changes did McLaren make to their car, and does this mean the team is about to become one of the forerunners soon? Let's quickly go through the details. The 2022 season was not a very good one for most teams, as it was hard for them to produce high performance cars due to the introduction of new aerodynamic regulations by F1. But soon enough, teams were able to figure out what the issues with their cars were and began rectifying them. The only problem was that teams had to wait until the next season to make all the desired changes. McLaren was one of them. Although the team finished 5th on the constructors table, it was only because other teams were not better off, so the team decided to make an incredible car and finally restored the team to its past glory. Unfortunately, they fell short. The team's principal, Andrea Stella, revealed at the beginning of the 2023 season that they missed their target for their car MCL60, and it was all due to a change in developmental choices that resulted in them falling short of the aerodynamic efficiency initially targeted. We realized probably late that there were some development directions that had more potential in terms of development over a longer period, but we didn't realize that early enough to actually allow these development directions to be part of the launch specification of the car. Everyone could see from the performance in the first few races that something was terribly wrong. Some of their midfield rivals were even concerned. Why wouldn't they be? Norris and Piastri finished the Bahrain GP at 17th and 20th position, and the Saudi Arabian GP was not any better. There was a lot to worry about. But things began to change for the better when McLaren introduced a major floor upgrade during the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. The raising of the floor edge by 15mm was a good change in direction, as it increased the car's lap time by 2 or 3/10 of a second. That might seem insignificant to you, but in F1, that's a lot. However, McLaren had bigger plans, and we saw a part of it get introduced at the Austrian Grand Prix. In Austria, only Norris got the upgrade, and when they saw a significant difference, they worked double time to ensure that Piastri's car got the upgrades at Silverstone. Despite that, Piastri's car was a step behind Norris's, due to the introduction of a new front wing the day before. While McLaren knew that the upgrades were going to make a huge difference, never did they imagine that their car will be the closest challenger to Red Bull. At qualifying, Norris finished only a quarter of a second after Verstappen, and Piastri were right behind, making it their best qualifying performance so far this season. Stella admitted that the dry tracks at Silverstone had helped boost their performance, but it was only because their upgrades made a significant difference. The upgrades truly made a difference because Norris and Piastri were absolutely amazing in the British GP. After earning Q2 and Q3, they were well on their way to finishing at P2 and P3. Norris had gone ahead of Verstappen, who was at a pole position at turn 1, and fans went wild with joy. Although the Dutch driver was able to retake his position on the 5th lap, he had to fight for it. And as for the 2nd position, Norris fought valiantly against Hamilton for it, and was soon in control of that as Aston Martin and Ferrari were comfortably behind. As for Piastri, the 3rd position was also within his reach, only that a safety car issue affected him and led him to losing his 3rd place to Hamilton. The car was really incredible. So what exactly got changed? Reports showed that a major part of the concept is Red Bull inspired. The first notable change is the difference in the radiator inlet at the front of the side pods. McLaren increased the height of the inlet by decreasing the open profile of the leading edge of the side pods. Now, there is an increase in the side pod undercut volume, which will allow more airflow to go through the area at higher speed, so that means an improvement in the performance of the diffuser. The whole design also imitates that of Alpine, where the top performance of the side pods fuse into the chassis and the engine cover sides. This is to ensure that the airflow goes over the side pods and supports the beam wing and diffuser close to the center line of the car. It also creates a pathway for excess radiator flow when the radiator system isn't able to take in the enormous airflow that is thrown at it. McLaren also adjusted the fairings on the upper side of the dangling edge of the halo. The front car of the underfloor feature is quite similar to the previous style, but now the floor edge detail has changed. Previously, the car had a small inlet to allow allow the upper floor surface to connect to the tyre squirter while the tyre is rotating on the track surface. But the new airflow structure now uses a mechanical seal. This means the sealing of the underfloor now depends on the closeness of the floor to the ground, rather than the aerodynamics. Although, there is a chance that it will lead the car to bouncing up and down the tracks, but that's only if it's not properly designed. McLaren has also chosen a more moderate radius for the top corners of the diffuser. This is said to be a part of a much bigger underfloor structure design that will be introduced much later. The Papaya team has also lowered and decreased the size of the cooling outlet, located at the rear of the engine's cover. They also introduced a new front wing and nose, but Norris is the only one with it for now. Piastri's car only has the slot for it opened up at the spine of the engine's cover. Despite all the things I've listed, McLaren is still coming with more upgrade packages, and there might be a need for it, because it's too early to conclude the upgrade packages already introduced are enough to make a difference. Although it was the second quickest car at Silverstone and third in Austria, that doesn't really prove anything, because while the last 2 weekends have proven that they can contest for second best, with the likes of Ferrari, Mercedes and Aston Martin, it might fall out of the race on its weaker tracks. Let's look at Mercedes for example. After introducing the upgrade packages in Monaco and wowing everyone in Spain, the car didn't perform well in Austria and only got luck at Silverstone, so nothing is certain. When Norris was asked about the car's performance, his response shocked everyone. Most people were expecting him to rain accolades on the car and reveal that they were well on their way to achieving their desired goal. The Belgian-British driver called the car terrible. He said that the car was poor and was no rocket ship as Hamilton suggested, because it was incredibly hard to drive and couldn't turn easily at slow speed corners. He also said it was too early to jubilate because the coming races were a bit trickier than Silverstone. We do have a poor car, and I would say pretty terrible in the slow speed corners. Extremely difficult to drive. I feel as if we're getting excited, and I accept that, but we're going to go for a couple of tracks coming up where I'm sure people are going to be saying, what have you done now? Like, how has it got so bad all of a sudden? This statement might have hurt the engineers at McLaren a little bit, but the young man only spoke the truth, because in the end, he was the one who would actually give a proper review. However, the team principal came out to say that he was proud of what they achieved at Silverstone, because they didn't expect that much. He also said they were going to continue working relentlessly to ensure that their goal to be one of the top runners in 2 years is achieved. Once we started to develop the car, our expectation was by the end of the season we could fight with the 4 quickest teams. So it was a bit of a surprise we find ourselves in this position now. Our expectation is for McLaren to compete for podiums next season, and for victories in the following season. This is the long-term vision. When Stella was appointed as the team's principal for the season, he began a restructuring program that brought in the new aerodynamic technical director, Peter Padroma, to focus on the design work. So far, Padroma has done an incredible job, as we can see the difference in the car's performance. And from the team principal's revelations, there are still several upgrades to come. I can't wait to see what the future holds for McLaren and other teams. So what do you think of all that is being discussed?